everybody please stand up for
Prayer
the
for the transformation. God
advocates
advocates
pray.
pray. Lord, as God advocates, please make us effective channels for transformation. Where there is discrimination, let us all assert for equity. Where there is subordination, let us all appeal for equality. Where there is marginalization, let us all move for empowerment. Where there is violence, let us all work for peace. O Lord, grant us that we may never fail to practice gender fairness in our homes, in the workplace, and in the community. Let respect, participation, recognition, and appreciation be dominant values of all men and women. Through your guidance, Lord, equality and empowerment of both men and women will not be far behind. Amen.
Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marubdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayaw magiliw, pero sa silanganan, ayaw ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hiniram, dulot ka ng magiging, sa manlulupin, di ka masisigil. Sa lahat ng lubog, sa sigaw at sa langit mong baba, maging ang tula at awit sa paglayang nilamaan. Ang isang ng patawad ko'y tagumpay na naglilingin.
You may now take your seats. Good morning again, dear participants, and on behalf of the Philippine Commission on Women, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the United Nations CSW69 Feedback Forum. This gathering serves as a platform to share insights, key takeaways, and reflections from the 69th session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. We will also discuss the next steps as we continue our collective commitment to gender equality and women's empowerment in the Philippines and beyond. Now, before I proceed to our first speaker or opening remarks, I'd like to take this time to thank the agencies present here today, taking their time to attend our feedback forum. For government agencies, the Commission on Audit, the Commission on Filipino Overseas, the MTRCB, the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Presidential Human Rights Committee Secretariat, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, the Department of Interior and Local Government, the Commission on Higher Education, Department of Migrant Workers, the Department of Information, Communications Technology, the National Council on Disability Affairs, the Council for Women, the Welfare of Children, the Philippine Air Force, the Small Business Corporation, the Department of Agriculture, the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Department of Transportation, Philippine Railways Institute, the Commission on Population and Development, the National Housing Authority, the Commission on Human Rights, the Philippine Statistics Authority, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the Department of Budget and Management, the Department of Science and Technology, the National Conciliation and Mediation Board, the Philippine Navy, the Commission on Elections, the Climate Change Commission, the Department of Education, and the Early Childhood Care Development Council. Now, for our CSO and development partners, we wish to welcome the ASEAN Soji Caucus, the Women's International Network on Disaster Risk Reduction, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees Philippines, the Oxfam Pilipinas, the Women's and Gender Studies Association of the Philippines, the New Zealand Embassy, the United Nations Population Fund Philippines, the United Nations Children's Fund Philippines, the United Nations Women, UN Women, the Spanish Agency for International Development Cooperation, the Plan International Pilipinas, We Act 1325, the Embassy of Japan in the Philippines, the WGNRR, the Action Klima Pilipinas, the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia, Greenpeace Philippines, Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, and the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. Thank you very much po again for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend our feedback forum. Now, without further ado, I'd like to invite our Officer in Charge, Executive Director of the Philippine Commission on Women, Ms. Narlene Santos Millar, to deliver the opening message. Let us warmly welcome her, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. Good morning, everyone. How are you this morning? Yes, our chairperson, Melita Valdevilla, of course, the different government officials present here this morning, partners, civil society organizations, private sector, the media. Good morning to everyone. Same with Monty, I would like to express, of course, our deepest gratitude on behalf of the Philippine Commission on Women for all of you for joining us this morning to this anong title natin? Feedback Forum. Actually, the chair wants it to be called reporting. Report back on the results of the UN CSW. So this is a feedback forum, a report back on the results of the United Nations Commission on Status of Women 69th session that was recently concluded last month. As most of you may have noticed, medyo magkakakilala naman po tayo, no? Familiar faces are all over the room. So I hope that you get to network again with each other this morning. Medyo magkakakilala po tayo kasi po halos lahat tayo will play a very important role to take the results of the UN CSW forward. No? So the UN CSW69 focused on the 30-year review of the Beijing Platform for Action, or what we used to know as BPfA. No? Ito yung maliiksing title niya. Okay, before we went to New York, the Philippine Delegation went to New York, we conducted, the Philippine Commission on Women conducted a series of consultation sessions to ensure that the periodic review, which we conduct every 5 years, to track our progress and the challenges in advancing the key areas of the BPfA will be documented. So the PCW led the national report preparation process beginning in 2024. No? So we had series of consultations in different parts of the countries. We have one in Visayas, in Cebu, in Mindanao, it's I think in Cagayan de Oro. And of course, we culminated with a national consultation in Manila. through the collective efforts of our partners and stakeholders and active engagement of different government agencies, we're able to finalize our national report, which we also presented during a session that we held in December 2024, we called Bridging Progress Towards Gender Equality and Sustainable Development. So this is the high-level visibility forum that we conducted. No? After this, the United Nations Regional Commission invited some of the representatives from different government agencies for a regional review. No? So this is an ASEAN review to assess the progress and challenges in implementing the Beijing Platform for Action. As part of this process, the Philippines participated in the Asia-Pacific Ministerial Conference held in November 2024, where we engaged in regional discussions and helped shape the Asia-Pacific collective positions. The outcome of this regional review fed into what the Philippine Delegation reported to the UN CSW. Medyo masaya din po kami. Sobrang saya actually, hindi lang medyo. Sobrang saya namin. Because after 2 years, yung delegation ng UN CSW was led by the Philippine Commission on Women, high-level representation through our chairperson, the first ever, I would like to emphasize, permanent chairperson of the Philippine Commission on Women, Chair Ermi. No? After the issuance of an Executive Order 67 that made the chairperson of the PCW undersecretary level. No? So the CSW69 was held March 10 to 21 in New York City, where several members of the Philippine Delegation are here. So I would like to, of course, acknowledge the members of the PhilDel that were part of the UN CSW69. Of course, we have the DFA, Department of Foreign Affairs. Hello, ma'am. Together with the New York Permanent Mission in the UN. So sila po yung tumulong sa atin doon. Siyempre, we have the Department of Labor and Employment. Andito na po ba yung taga-Dole? Wala pa. DSWD, si Yusek Villar was there. DOST, si Ma'am Asik Dayan. Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity. Of course, si Asik Susan is also part of the delegation. The Commission on Human Rights. And of course, we have a CSO member of the delegation from Plan International. We wish to thank all of this very active member of the Philippine Delegation. They attended several back-breaking sessions and also led an event led by the Philippines. No? So why are we here this morning? Why did we organize this event? We have called upon you again this morning so that our delegation can report back to you. No? So we would like to share what has transpired during the 2 weeks of the UNCSW and generate your commitment to ensure that the insights and the lessons are translated into concrete action here at home. Kasi hindi po tayo magtatapos dun sa reporting. We have to move this forward. No? Our discussion today will help us chart our ways forward, not only to in the next 5 years of the BPfA, but also as we work towards the final stretch of the Sustainable Development Goal. So we look forward to a rich exchanges. Huwag po kayo mahiyang magtanong, mag-clarify sa report ng ating Philippine Delegation. And if you have if you can already think about what you can do at your agency level, please let us know. We would like to document that so we can follow it forward sa inyong mga God plans and budgets. No, kasi doon naman po talaga natin yan ilalagay. So ano man yung commitment natin na dapat gawin para mas ma-intensify yung implementation ng BPfA and our commitment to the UN CSW69, we will translate that to our own respective gender plans and budgets. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat and mabuhay po tayong lahat. Tapos na pala ang Women's Month. So iba naman ang okasyon natin ngayong April. So salamat po sa inyong lahat at magandang umaga.
Thank you very much, Ms. Narlene, for setting the tone for today's event. Ayan. So moving forward, we will now have an overview of the Commission on the Status of Women so that we get to be familiar. Ano nga ba itong pinag-uusapan natin today and why is it relevant to what we do? Okay, so I will be presenting the overview. So next slide, please. Ayan. So the CSW, or the Commission on the Status of Women, is the functional committee, the functional commission of the United Economic and Social Council, or ECOSOC, established in 1946. So ito po yung principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to promote gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. And it is very instrumental in promoting women's rights, documenting the reality of women's lives throughout the world, and shaping global standards on gender equality and the empowerment of women. And since 1996, the CSW has led the monitoring and review of progress and challenges in the implementation of the Beijing Platform for Action, or the BPfA, which we will be repeating over and over again for today's event, because it is the theme of the CSW for this year. And the CSW also leads the mainstreaming of gender perspective in UN activities. Next slide, please. Following the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in 2015, the Commission also now contributes the follow-up to the 2030 Agenda and to accelerate GWE. Next slide. And the CSW convenes annually every March at the United Nations headquarters in New York with state party delegates and CSO representatives who participate in multiple engagements during the 2-week session. Usually these are the ministerial roundtable discussion, interactive dialogues, bilateral meetings, and negotiations on the agreed conclusions. On the sidelines, we also have side events, which can be held in the United Nations headquarters or around the vicinity of the UN, or also in our home countries. Ayan po. For the Philippines, the PCW, the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Permanent Mission in New York lead the preparations of the Philippine Delegation to the CSW. And this year, as I mentioned, the main focus of the CSW, next slide please, was the review and appraisal and implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, or the BPfA, and the outcomes of the 23rd Special Session of the General Assembly. So the CSW69 was held 10 to 21 March at the UNHQ, where the review included an assessment of current challenges that affected the implementation of the Platform for Action and the achievement of gender equality and empowerment of women, and its contribution towards the full realization of the 2030 SDG. Next slide, please. And as mentioned by Ms. Narlene, you may notice that you see familiar faces all around, because this would be a full circle event. So as mentioned, the CSW69 is, the theme is to review the BPfA. But prior to that, if you may recall, early last year, we had the national reporting first, where we held multiple technical working group consultations based on the dimensions in the BPfA. So we had 6 dimensions. We also conducted the Visayas and Mindanao consultations. And then we had the national consultation to consolidate all of the inputs, all of the achievement of the Philippine government, together with inputs from our civil society organization partners. And then once we had that consolidated report, when it was finalized, we presented that during the high profile visibility event held just last year, December 19, 2024. Now, when we had that report, the CSW needs, the commission needs to conduct a regional review. And for the Philippines, we are part of the Asia Pacific group. So we attended the Philippine Commission on Women together with the other Philippine delegate members, attended the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference on the BPfA. And the outcomes of those regional review feed into the CSW69 session we had this March. So these are the key takeaways, if I may just share. There is a guarantee that the implementation of the BPfA will continue in the region, and international agencies, leading countries remain committed to support the states in the implementation process of the BPfA. We also saw opportunities for partnership. Support is abundant. it's present there. And there are entities that are in business for facilitating linkages. The Philippines, led by our HOD in November in Bangkok, was Chairperson Valdea Villa, and she had multiple bilateral meetings with very supportive member states and civil society organizations, really willing to partner and link up to facilitate linkages. Next slide, please. And then the region, we saw that the Asia-Pacific region is united in its interests to intensify actions related to climate change, care economy, ending violence against women, economic empowerment, advancing women's leadership, and optimizing digital resources to advance women's empowerment. So these were all the same statements delivered by member states in the regional review. And there is also a recognition of multiple challenges in the context within these issues were addressed. So going back to the CSW 69, next slide please. Yeah, there we go. So the CSW 69, all of these recommendations from the Asia Pacific and the other regional committees feed into the CSW 69. And for this year, I mentioned there was an agreed conclusion. This usually happens every CSW, but not for for the 5th year of the CSW, because what we have is a political declaration. This would be the outcome document of CSW 69 or the review session of the CSW. So this political declaration is released every review session, and it was negotiated by our permanent mission of the Philippines in New York, and inputs from the Philippine Delegation and relevant agencies, including civil society organizations, were presented here. And it was adopted, this political declaration was adopted during the opening session of the CSW 69. However, I won't go into details because we have a session later where our delegate from the Department of Foreign Affairs will be explaining further what this outcome document says. Next slide, please. Okay, as mentioned by our OIC Executive Director, the Philippine delegation is composed of the following. Of course, we are led by our PCW Chairperson, Ermelita Valdea Villa, or Chair Ermi. And we also have delegates from the Philippine Commission on Women, the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Permanent Mission of the Philippines to New York, UN, the Commission on Human Rights, the Department of Information Communications Technology, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, and the CSO, which is Plan International Philippines, where our youth representative was from. Can we ask the Philippine delegation to stand up? Ayan. Please give them a round of applause, please. Ayan. Please stand up daw po sa lahat ng dumalo. Please give yourself recognition for attending today's event. Ayan. Okay. So, throughout the 2-week session, here are a summary of engagements that I won't go into further details, but just so you can see how active really the Philippine delegation is and how dedicated they are to be active in the session. So for the interventions, we had 12 interventions delivered throughout the 2-week session. So this include interventions during the general discussion, the ministerial roundtable, and interactive dialogues. For bilateral meetings, which were all led by our head of delegation, Chair Ermi, we had 13 meetings throughout the 2-week session. So that's really a lot, no? So let's give a round of applause to our head of delegation. This included meetings with member states, international organizations, and civil society organizations po. And then for the Philippine-led side events, we're really very active on having side events. We have 3 side events. We had 2 in New York, and then we also had 1 in the Philippines via hybrid mode, which was hosted by our Department of Science and Technology. Ayan po. And also we had 7 co-sponsored side events. So co-sponsored side event means these are hosted or organized by other member states or other organizations, and they invited Philippines because the topic of this side event reflects the same with our priorities. And that is actually it for my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And now we'll proceed to the next part of the program, right? So at CSW69, the Philippine delegation, as you saw, was actively engaged in strategic discussions, building partnerships, and amplifying our advocacy towards gender equality. So what were the key highlights? What were the challenges and opportunities that emerged? And to present these insights, may I now welcome the head of delegation to CSW69 and our chairperson of the Philippine Commission on Women, Ms. Ermelita V. Valdea-Villa.
Good morning. Sana makita niyo ako. Mababa naman ang podium, di ba? There is no way I can thank enough the delegates, the members of the Philippine delegation. Really, you're very hardworking, you're very competent, you're such a team player. You make it like a very pleasant experience for me. So from the bottom of my heart, I really thank you. I wish I could bring more, but I think you understand that the UN has a constraint in terms of its liquidity, and we were discouraged from bringing more delegates, so it was a very lean delegation. When I represented the Philippines in the regional review, I was head of the delegation, as mentioned by Monty. I was warned to stop because my time is over. And in the CSW, I was cut. The microphone was unplugged when I had only one sentence left in my intervention. And because of that, I prepared a written speech so that I don't go beyond, and my own staff would unplug the microphone. Okay, so I wish to thank all of you who are here with us today, members of the Diplomatic Corps, our representatives from the UN agencies, UN Women, UNFPA, Japanese Embassy. Who else from the Diplomatic Corps? Please stand up and be recognized. Thank you very much. You know, we will not be able to reach this far without your support, and we will always be indebted to you. And we pay you back with strong performance, if that is enough. International agencies, government agencies, many of us are with government. Please stand up, government agencies. Noon pa partner na namin kayo. Please stand up and be recognized. I'm so happy to see you here. Thank you so very much. The RTVM is here. Members of the media, Hazel, please stand up. So we are live streaming. Kaya ayusin na po natin ang ating makeup. And thank you so much. And the amazing commissioners and staff of the Philippine Commission on Women. Hindi po ako nahihiya na sabihin sa inyo. They are one of the best things that ever happened to me in my 9 months of stay in the Philippine Commission on Women as their chairperson. So, it's a great honor to have been head of the delegation. It is right-sized, hindi masyadong maliit, pero hindi siya malaki. And the members are not only experts in their topics, they are also very disciplined, fantastic team players, and are very committed to giving their best to honor the Filipino nation. We were smartly guided by the DFA and the Permanent Mission to the United Nations under the leadership of Ambassador Antonio Lagdameo. Nag-appear pa po siya at nagsalita sa isang session namin on national women's machineries. Our delegation members came prepared for their assigned interventions, showed up earlier than the designated time, mastered the guidance from the DFA and the organizers of the conferences, rehearsed their piece for content, delivery, and length compliance, dressed up in Filipiniana, and masterfully delivered their statements in the most compelling way. Being a small delegation, we took more than one speaking assignments. even topics that were not our line of expertise. Siguro na-imagine nyo kung gaano ako nanginig nung nagsalita ako as a panel member in forum on information communications technology. Wala po talaga akong alam dyan. Kahit po yung computer ko, hindi ko po maasikaso minsan at hindi ko alam kung paano paganahin. So, for example, I had a panel presentation on digital technology, and the PAPRO, Asing Marcaida, had an intervention on environment. Okay? So, nilakasan na lang po namin ang loob namin, pero nalaman namin na okay lang pala na maliit ang delegation, kasi kung meron mang mga topics na wala tayong mga experts, pinipilit din namin maging experts overnight para matakal namin yung topic. Ang medyo nakaka-nervous lang ho, Asik Dayan, nakinatatakutan ko, baka tanungin ako technically. Pag lumalim na ang discussion at napag-usapan na yung mga technicalities, medyo nakakakabalang ho. Kaya lang, I think they know also that our expertise is on gender. So, in fact, we were very much applauded. Dun sa ICT session ko, I was applauded, I think, 3 times. And the moderator even stopped my talk and say that we have to give Philippines a round of applause. So, siyempre po, yung sinabi ko sa kanila, research lang po yun ng mga staff ng Philippine Commission on Women. I talked about how we are responding to violence against women that are facilitated by technology. So, sinabi ko sa kanila yung mga batas natin, yung ating action plan, and the initiatives that we are doing, the engagement of the civil society. Meron pa nga po nagsabing dadalhin ako sa Brussels para magsalita din ako doon. Pero wag na po, the ICT na po yan. So the content of my presentation will be insights from the Philippines delegates engagements. Namili po talaga kami ng mga areas na sasalihan namin. And then the gains for the Philippines, the emergent challenges, and the ways forward. So maiksi lang po yung presentation ko. We ensured that our participation was informed by several factors. Mahirap pong sumugod sa CSW nang hindi naintindihan ang konteksto ng ating suliranin sa gender equality and women's empowerment sa Pilipinas, sa region, at sa buong mundo. So inintindi po namin yan. First among them were several milestone opportunities offered by 2025 being an extraordinary year. Hindi po ordinaryo ang year 2025. This year is the 80th anniversary of the UN Charter, which is the first international instrument that declared equality between women and men. 80 years old na po ang UN Charter. It will also be the 50th anniversary of the International Women's Year, the 50th anniversary of the Philippine Commission on Women, the 45th year of the Philippines signing of CEDAW, the 45th year since the Second World Conference on Women in Copenhagen, the 40th anniversary of the Third World Conference on Women in Nairobi, the 25th year of the UNSCR 1325, this is very, very important, the 10th year of the Sustainable Development Goals, and of course, this is the 30th year of the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which took the center stage of CSW69. All of these events present distinct opportunities to reflect on what we have been achieving and to review global commitments toward supporting the agenda of women's empowerment and gender equality. Maganda pong panahon ng 2025 kasi marami pong mga okasyon na pinag-iisipan ko ano nang nangyayari sa mga commitment ng buong mundo sa pagpapaunlad ng sangkatauhan. Hindi lamang po ng women, kundi ng sangkatauhan. We also took note of the threats and opportunities sparred by the digital age. Information, communication, and technology, including technology-facilitated violence against women, disinformation and scamming, as well as potential loss of undermining of jobs, especially at the service sector, which is dominated by women. We also recognize that all over the world, women are disproportionately affected by climate-induced disasters and armed conflict. Threats that both bring immeasurable anxiety, increased care responsibilities, and devastation of ability to bounce back to normal life. naranasan po natin yan. Parang 6 na bagyo sa isang linggo, wow. Kung mayaman ka, okay lang yan. Pero kung nagtitinda ka lang ng gulay at sunod-sunod ang disasters, paano ka babangon? At paano mo susustentuhan ang mga anak mo at pamilya na nakaasa sa iyo? And what if you are physically disabled? Right? So, we also recognize that many women are facing intersecting disadvantages, such as women with disability who are also solo parents or living in indigenous communities with inaccessible services. Also, we know that like in many other countries, we have an upsurge of teenage pregnancy and child marriage persist even in the wake of law criminalizing it. Like all countries of the world, unpaid care and domestic work continue to be shouldered by women, to the point that their own opportunities for career advancement and their overall well-being are already being impaired. Doon po sa gustong-gusto talagang gawin ang housework at pag-aalaga sa mga nangangailangan ng pag-aruga sa ating tahanan, more power to you. Hindi po kami kumukontra. Kung gusto ninyo yan, mabuhay po kayo. Pero kung ang pagkaka-assign sa atin ng care at domestic work ay nakaka-impair na sa ating mga options and choices, tingnan po natin. Kasi baka discrimination against women na po ito ayon sa definition ng CEDAW. And we want a shift toward sharing these responsibilities and bringing dignity and commensurate value to both paid and unpaid care and domestic work. So hindi lang po yung sa oras at pagod kundi yun pong pagtanaw sa paid and unpaid care and domestic work. Bakit parang pag gawaing bahay, 20 taon kang nagluluto sa pamamahay mo, nag-apply kang chef, sasabihin sa'yo, wala po kayo experience It's not recognized. It's not recognized. It's undervalued. It's not even valued. So, yan po ang gusto nating tutukan sa darating pang mga araw. We know of our responsibility to reflect the voice of a substantive leader. Namulat po ang aking mata sa ganitong pananaw dahil kay UN City Coordinator Gustavo Gonzales, noong aming anniversary ng 50th year, sinabi niya po mismo dun sa audience, take care of your international leadership roles on gender equality. Noon lang ako namulat. Alam ko ng leader kami, pero hindi ko alam na ganyan pala kami kasikat. Sige. So, we kept that in our mind. We need to convey a clear vision, determination, strength, and pride in our achievements. Carry the voice of a substantive leader. Communicating a readiness to collaborate and lead, especially in such areas as women, peace, and security, which is essential to our bid for non-permanent membership with the UN Security Council. 10 araw lamang po yung event. 13 ang aming bilateral meetings. We never said no because we want votes. We also want to learn from them, and we would like to share with them what it is that the Philippines can offer to the world should we be elected to the Security Council. Apart from that, we delivered compelling messages. So it's not enough that you become strategic in the choice of your interventions and your engagements. We have to deliberately deliver compelling messages. We delivered compelling messages including our whole of government approach and whole of society engagement. Sa atin po, bawat isa may obligasyon to promote gender equality and women's empowerment. Masyado na pong sikat ang God sa gobyerno, pero ginagapang pa din po natin ang ating society kasi hindi po tayo masyadong nakakababa sa kanila in terms of changing perspectives about relationships between women and men. We talk about our slow but meaningful and steady achievements, while other countries were reporting about outcome-level results. Mga trainings, mga capacity building, we were talking about changes on the lives of our women. For example, we said that we have lengthened the life expectancy of our women by 4 years. We have reduced maternal mortality rate so that we are only 8 points shy of the SDG target. We have raised the labor force participation rate to 54%. We are trying to reduce adolescent pregnancy. We have achieved gender equality in education. So yung mga konkretong achievements, of course, pag sinabing gender parity in education, which is recognized by the World Economic Forum, because its 2024 report said that we are one of the 28 countries in the world that has achieved gender parity in education. That's an achievement. But here in the Philippines and in our heart, we know that there are still 11 million girls, boys and girls and youth that are out of school. So kung okay man po sila sa loob ng school, meron pa pong maraming wala sa school na kailangan po ng ating atensyon. All of us spoke about our 2 legislated GAD budgets. I think we are unbeatable when it comes to this. There are already Asian countries that came to the Philippines and asked about how we do our GAD budgets, and they like it very much. They want to do it. But one of the ministers told me, we cannot have a law. We cannot pass a law on GAD budget. It will not be approved by our parliament. So the history of having 2 legislated budgets, one of them was authored by the mother of one of our participants, Senator Santanina Razul, and then Congressman Raul Roco. Palakpakan po natin sa utang na loob natin sa kanila yan. Ito pong batas na ito ay nagsasabi na at least 5 to 30% of the official development assistance should be used for gender and development activities, and we are working with the international community. We have an ODA GAD network composed of, I think, 14 representatives from the embassies and the diplomatic corps, and 6 representatives from the UN and 3 representatives from the government, DBM, NEDA, and the Commission on Women. So itutuloy po natin yan. Pangako po natin kay kay Senator Santanina Rasul at sa kanyang butihing anak na hindi natin pababayaan yan, because it's one of the most important legacies by a Muslim woman. And we have also told them that we have effective enabling mechanisms. Kanina po sinabi ni Narlene that I was the first permanent chairperson. I'm not permanent. I'm the first full-time because I will be ending my term in 2028. So I am the first full-time chairperson. And she's proud that I am undersecretary. I'm not proud that I am undersecretary, because when you come to the UN, all ministers will have to speak first, and if there is a remaining time, then the undersecretary can speak. Otherwise, if time is over, then you are not counted. So I don't want to leave this as a legacy to my successor. I'm going to work for secretary level position for the PCW, even if I don't benefit from it. I don't care if I benefit from it or not, but the PCW should have a chair person who is a secretary. Kasi, ano yung sinasabi nating international leadership on gender equality kung ang ating head of the PCW is an undersecretary? Napakadami pong Commission on Women, Ministries of Women that are headed by ministers. Kaya nga po nauubusan na ng oras sa pagsasalita ang underranked. Natatawa nga ako kay Monty kasi nakikipagtalo siya. Nakita po namin may 3 pong deputy ministers dyan So bakit hindi kami pwedeng yung chairperson namin magsalita? Nakita namin sa listahan. Yun pala, ibang klaseng deputy minister pala ng state, hindi pala ng department level. Parang kung prime minister yung head nila, yung deputy prime minister yun. So ibang ranggo po yun. So sa UN po talaga, pataasan po ng ranggo yan. They don't care whether you are good or not, but if you have the rank, then you are prioritized. So mababalitaan po ninyo yan because we are going to ask for it from the Office of the President. And just to tell you now, we are still under the Department of Interior and local government, but our Board of Commissioners. We have 12 commissioners from the CSOs and 10 from the government agencies. O kayo dyan, baka hindi nyo alam na yung palang department ninyo ay may commissioner sa Philippine Commission on Women, ha? O, DOST, wala kayo sa amin. Pero yung mga agriculture dyan, health, social welfare, meron po kayong seat sa aming board. So we have asked permission from the Department of Interior and Local Government to allow us to move back to the office of the President, and through the kindness of our commissioners and Lillian and sino pa nga ba isa? So kami po nabigyan na ng Commissioner Yao, yes, but we have support from the Esther. Yeah, Miss Esther Aldana also supported us in getting the approval of Secretary to allow us to move, Remulia, to allow us to move to the Office of the President. So we are working for that. So one of these days you will be hearing news about us, and we will be including our request to have a secretary position and to elevate the positions of our executive director and deputy to undersecretary and assistant secretary. Tulungan nyo na lang po kami magdasal. Yun po ang malaking tulong na maibibigay ninyo. Our delegation was the first to call for gender equality within the UN, particularly in representation and processes and the appointment of a first female Secretary General after 80 years. Biruin nyo naman, 80 years na po ang UN. Hanggang ngayon, wala pa silang female Secretary General. 4 na billion po ang female population ng mundo. Ibig sabihin ba, doon sa 4 na billion na yon, kahit isa, walang pwedeng inominate na Secretary General? And I also said that the UN has been asking all governments in the world to deliver on gender equality. It has to deliver within itself gender equality. Kahit yung mga representation po sa UNGA, konti lang po ang babae. So, I think there are a lot of other countries who spoke in support of that. Kaya abangan na lang po natin. We raised the idea that member states must ponder upon and examine whether unpaid care and domestic work is a form of discrimination against women. Kasi po, yung mga pumirma na, nag-ratify na ng CEDAW, kung ma-declare ito ng CEDAW na discrimination, they are compelled to take aggressive action to change the structure of care and domestic work if it is discrimination, because discrimination is prohibited under CEDAW, especially among those who have signed the treaties. Moreover, we called upon CSW to make national women's machineries their ground partners. Mag-usap naman po tayo, hindi yung nakikita lang tayo tuwing CSW meetings. To promote peer-to-peer learning. We would like to learn from the experiences of other countries, and during the time when the Division for the Advancement of Women was still in place, they were calling national women's machineries all over the world to sit down and talk about their challenges and opportunities. Also, to do a deep dive review of the 5-year Beijing Platform for Action reports to offer advice on how gaps could be effectively addressed. Kasi po yung report natin sa CEDAW, nire-review po yan ng mga experts. Pagkatapos, ibinabalik sa atin ng CEDAW kung anong problema natin. We would like them to do that also for the Beijing Platform report. Kasi 5 years po yan eh. Kung hindi titingnan ng masikaso yung ating reports, di pa ulit-ulit na lamang po tayo na ganun at ganun ang mga problema. We also said that they have to provide technical support in reviewing how ICT could accelerate the implementation of the 12 areas of concern. Kung nandun po kayo, maririnig ninyo na lahat ay inip na. Everybody is talking about accelerating results. Ayaw na nila ng paulit-ulit na parang little gains here and there. But if you would like to do that, if we want that to happen, we really have to use ICT. We have to look at each and every area of concern and see what aspect of our plan can be accelerated if we use digital technology. So our interactions were purposive. All of our interactions were selected, and they aimed to, first, learn as much as we can from them. Second, scout for collaboration, technical assistance, and funding support. Third, showcase our areas of excellence. And fourth, get votes. Kailangan po nating manalo. Kasi handang-handa na po tayo sa WPS na tumulong sa kanila. Along the way, we search for ideas on how to counteract the pushback against the gender equality agenda. Nobody yet has talked about pushback. At ito po yung isang hindi kaaya-ayang balita na gusto kong sabihin sa inyo. Pero maya-maya na lang po, relax lang kayo dyan. So, within the 10-day period, 10 araw lang po yung UN CSW, we had 13 bilateral meetings over and above our participation in the ministerial sessions and side events. Wala po kaming hinindian. Pag sinabi ng DFA, pwede pa ba, Chair, nakausapin ninyo ito? Opo, pwede po. Sige, handa natin ang ating meeting place. And we met with Eritrea, Singapore, Grenada. Biro mo, pati Grenada pinatulan namin. Maliit na bansa yan, pero ang boto niyan, kapareho din ang boto ng malalaking bansa. So Grenada, Ukraine, UK, Hungary, Club de Madrid. Club de Madrid is an organization of former presidents. And the only former president who was a member was Fidel B. Ramos. And their purpose is really to promote democracy. So there are very, very interesting discussions about how they can help the Philippines, but I will go roughly on that in a few minutes. So we had a meeting with the boss of UN Women, regional office, UN AIDS. Surprisingly, we have a huge problem with AIDS. I don't know if we know it, but that is the problem. The problem is it is not widely known. 400% increase in the year 2022 to 2023. 400% increase. I think we are the fastest growing country in terms of the epidemic. So we met also with International Women's Peace Group, Global Alliance for Care, Australia, and Global System for Mobile Communications Association. So what did we gain? The renewed commitment to implement. Pinatayan nyo na ba ako? 30 minutes. At the global level. Okay na. It's an important gain for Philippines because we draw strength from the energies of collective work with other nations. Pag tumigil po sila, mawawalan din tayo ng gana. Kaya mabuti po at lahat sila ay masyado pa rin pong interested na i-advance ang Beijing Platform for Action Implementation. The CSW69 was a gathering of 186 member states with 13,000 participants, including 1 vice president, 3 deputy ministers of state, 97 ministers, and 5,845 NGO representatives. It is a powerful force, and we need their dynamism to advance further what we are doing here in the Philippines. The second gain was the adoption of the political declaration because this declaration called for the implementation, financing, and women's representation in leadership positions in women, peace, and security. It calls for ending violence against women in all settings, online, armed conflict, climate-induced disasters, domestic, workplace, and other places. Wherever there is violence against women or gender-based violence, the political declaration calls for action to combat it. It also calls for increased representation of women in politics and decision-making, an area where Philippines is struggling. So nangangamuti po tayo dito ha, sinasabi ko na po sa inyo ha. Yung mga ayaw tumakbo sa politics, maawa kayo sa ating bansa. The problem is those women who are strong and are already successful are happy with wherever they are, and they are thriving wherever they are, and they do not want to take a mission to clean and cleanse our politics. Ayaw nila eh. Madumi daw, magulo, mahirap. So, paano yan? Bayaan na lang ba natin ganun sila? So, ang isa sa naiisip namin dito, ask the state universities and colleges to start courses on women's political participation and leadership to enjoin our young women to join politics and try to change it, change the dynamics. Hindi naman po lahat ng nasa Senado, Kongreso ay magagaling talaga na super, di ba? Kasi ang problema po dito, whenever women are trying to run for candidacy in the Senate and in the Congress, they will say, qualified ba yan? Magaling ba yan? But whenever it is men who are there, they don't ask questions. Hindi nga nila sinasabing nakakuha ba ng PAMAS award yan. Oh, di ba? Kahit sino na lang pwede. So, let's also try. And sabi ko nga, kahit hindi sila gaanong magaling or experienced, when they get into their positions, the Philippine Commission on Women and the UN Women will train them. We will support them. That is how to make it work for women. Okay, so nakiusap ako kanina sa ating representative from RTVM na pakisabi lang kay Presidente Marcos na the highest performer in terms of the president who appointed the most number of women in cabinet positions was President Benigno Aquino Jr., 22%. And the current president is only at the level of 11 to 12%. So, tulungan po nating maghabol ang ating current government. Tulungan po natin silang maglista. Kahit tayo na lang po ang maglista kung sino yung promotable women to cabinet level positions. Alam ko, UN Women is interested on that. We just have to get somebody to give full time into it. Kasi malaki po panahon ng mauubos dito. The declaration asserts for more investments in women's participation in STEM. Opo, and digital inclusion. So, sabi po ng CHED, 48% na po ang ating representation sa STEM. So, that's not very bad. If that is real statistics, that's not bad. We are in there. And then there are studies showing that there is no gender digital divide in the Philippines. There is digital divide, but economic, not on gender. Because as long as they have ownership already of their gadgets, women even excel men in terms of using it for data search, for search of opportunities, for marketing, for purchasing, and for developing their skills and capacities. So we are good in ICT. But let us not forget that there are still around 24 million households that have no access to electricity. Without electricity, then they are automatically marginalized. So there is digital divide, except that it is not in the area of gender. Okay. Another potential gain for the Philippines would be the realization of interest to collaborate on many areas. Masyado pong mahaba yung mga napagkasunduan namin dun sa mga bilateral meetings, but I'm going to give you a preview of what they are. So, capacity building of women, peace and security, women leaders, and LGUs for post-conflict action. Ito po yung kay Michelle Bachelet, yung Club de Madrid. Sabi nila gusto nilang tulungan ang mga local government units at saka ang women in terms of the women, peace, and security. Financing and women's equal representation, especially in armed conflict. Kasi alam niyo ba na sa dinamay-dami ng mga babae natin sa buong mundo, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, 10% lang ang mga mediators, yung mga leaders sa armed conflict negotiations. Napakababa po. At 25 years na po ang UN Security Council Resolution 1325. Sabi ko nga kay Asik Marcaida, Let's break the record. Let's make it happen for the Philippines. At least 30% representation of women in leadership in WPS. Alam ko maraming tumutulong dyan eh. Kaya ba natin yan? Ay, naku. Kaya ba natin yan? Kakayanin natin yan. Sige, tututukan natin yan, ha? Role in strengthening the implementation of the UN SDCF in the Philippines. Alam ba natin kung ano ang UN SDCF? United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. So, ang gender, ito po may gender component, cross-cutting. And the UN Women wants to introduce a tool that will enable countries, not only the Philippines, to assess how we are progressing on gender equality and women's empowerment. And the director specifically asked me to support the process of refining the tool and helping the UN administer it. Okay? Strengthening HIV/AIDS awareness and policy advocacy. So what we agreed with the UNAIDS is we will invite the Department of Health Commissioner of the PCW to make a presentation on the state of HIV in the Philippines and the measures that are being taken to arrest, because we have to stop it. Imagine 400%. We have to bring it down to at least 100%. It's still bad, but kailangan nating pababain because pwedeng magkaroon ng exponential increase. Pwedeng from 400 maging 600 na kaagad, hindi nadadaan ng 500. Okay? Coordinated messaging to counter the pushback of women's agenda. So, sasabihin ko na po dito, kahit mamaya ko pa yan dapat sabihin. There is a group of states. May mga bansa po na gustong kumabig pabalik. Withdraw their support or push back what they have committed 30 years ago on the Beijing Platform for Action. For example, they don't like gender anymore. They said that as far as we are concerned, gender only means female and male. Gusto ko nga sabihin, sex po yan. Sa lessons po namin, sex. When you talk about sex, you talk about the natural attributes, which is male, female. But when you talk about gender, that's femininity, masculinity, that's culture. So you are protesting, but you don't even know what you are proposing. Pero anyway, it has a backlash on the SOGI. Yun lang talaga ang kanilang tinutumbo, kaya gusto nila female and male lang. But I think they have to understand that even if one is gay, a female will always be a female. A male will always be a male. Okay? And also there are, mamaya ko na lang yan sabihin kasi nakakasakit ng loob. Palakasin ko muna ang loob ninyo. So, another important gain for the Philippines is its possible membership in the UN Women Executive Board. This is an agenda that was raised to us by DFA. So, what does it mean to be a member of the UN Women Executive Board? It means that you will have access to high-level information and deliberation on policies, strategies, and directions for women's empowerment and gender equality globally. So this is a very strategic engagement that we would like to have if we will be approved by the deciding body. So we already sent our application and we'll just wait for the results. Let's talk about challenges before they cut me. Challenges appear to be seriously threatening, but I am sure that countries will find ways around them. As I have been saying from the start of the presentation, a number of countries are backing out from commitments already made 30 years ago. They have rejected the agreed concept of gender to be replaced with an understanding that this word refers only to female and male. There will also be thinning, scarcity of resources for gender equality, because those who push back may use their power of the purse and political influence to cut official development assistance and other financing options for themes that they do not like. So, pwede pong kumunti yan. Hindi po natin alam kung paano natin haharapin ito, pero ang alam po natin, marami pa rin maiiwan na susuporta sa gender equality agenda, and worst gets to worst, we still have our 5% God budget, which does not have a limit. So taon-taon po yan, as long as a government agency has a budget, there will always be a gender budget. There is also a loud but covert rejection of SOGI agenda within the BPfA agenda. The most blatant and perhaps the most damaging as well is the rejection of the Agenda 2030 or the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Meron po talaga nagsabing we are withdrawing our support to the SDG. Masakit yan because in the SDG, the Beijing Platform for Action is a platform of action. But the SDG is a platform of results. Yun yung talagang gusto nating mangyari na resulta. And within the SDG, gender is a standalone and a cross-cutting agenda. So malaki po talaga ang magiging backlash kung magwi-withdraw sila ng suporta. Apart from that, malapit na po kasi ang reckoning period. So iniisip ko dito, basta tuloy na rin natin kung anong ginagawa natin, pagbutihin natin para kung ano man ang mangyari sa mundo, at least we have something positive happening in our ground. So what are the ways forward? In the wake of all of this, we will pursue the priorities that we have identified in our Beijing Platform for Action Plus 30 report. Lahat po kayo halos nag-participate doon, so alam niyo kung ano yung ating ways forward doon. Itutuloy po natin lahat yan. Kung ano man ang nasimula natin, kung ano man ang nangyayari sa atin, yung mga problema susolusyonan, pero yung makakayang gawin, itutuloy pa po natin. We will also collaborate with UK and Australia in thinking about how to counter the global pushback. So pinag-usapan po namin yan, sabi namin, if they are talking about this thing, let us counter the same message that they are communicating. And we have to speak up. Because if we don't speak, it means that we validate the pushback that they are doing. Kailangan marinig naman nila kung anong panig ng mga nananahimik. So we would like to develop core messages and look for representatives of countries who will go to international conferences. Hindi lang naman gender ang international conferences. So sa population, I think there will be one coming up. So doon, sabihin natin kung ano yung mensahe natin at observation natin. We will intensify result-based monitoring and reporting because we believe that showing them achievements is the best counter-attack. Kung sasabihin ninyo na itigil yan, paano itong mga nangyayaring positibo sa buhay ng kababaihan? Iiwanan din ba natin? So there will be another reporting 5 years from now. Let us make sure that our report is result-based and impact level. Positive changes on the lives of women and girls. We will follow up on the results of the 13 bilateral meetings, including our bid for non-permanent membership in the UN Security Council and our bid for membership in the Executive Board of the UN Women. We are chairing the ASEAN next year, and we ambition to launch the ASEAN Center of Excellence in the same period. The concept note on Gender Academy, yes, we would like to have a gender academy similar to the DSWD Academy. Para naman po hindi puro webinar, Kasi may training na po kaming ginagawa, pero webinar, at sobra-sobra, it cannot even accommodate everybody who wants to be trained in the webinar. We have to cut the number of participants, kasi libo po eh. And we are planning to set up this Gender Academy, but we will have to subject the concept note to multi-sectoral consultation, and we hope that you will be supportive of this initiative. Kasi hindi baling maliit ang Philippine Commission on Women, basta malakas ang support system nito para patuloy kaming makapagserbisyo. We are preparing 2 major plans on gender. A long-term one, ayaw nilang sabing 30-year plan, pero yun eh, 30-year plan yun eh. There is a long-term plan and there is a medium-term plan, which is for this administration. Then there is the 6+1 agenda. Gusto ko malaman ninyo ito because this might be the first time that you are going to hear it. Instead of the 12 Beijing Platform for Action agenda, the UN Women is advocating for 6+1 agenda, which, by the way, resonates perfectly with our priorities. So, swerte, yung napili sa global level, yun din yung gusto nating gawin. So, we will explore how our involvement here will be beneficial to the Philippines. The 6 refer to women's leadership, care economy, poverty eradication, climate justice, ICT or digital inclusion, and ending violence against women. And the +1 is yes. Palakpakan natin si Princess. Ang boses ng kabataan, dinala niya sa UN CSW, kaya the 6th item is youth as a cross-cutting agenda. Salamat sa iyo, Princess. By the way, Princess is NGO, Plan International, at sila po hindi ginastusan ng gobyerno. They went there on their own. So, laking utang na loob po. Thank you so much. We will also support BPfA in the Philippines, participation in the high-level global action meeting in China. Yes, there will be a global action meeting in China in September. And this will be represented, I think, by the president, right? And we agreed that we will try to get the president to champion the agenda of care because he had already made statements on care in the meeting in Laos. So, we will prepare for UN CSW69, which will also be on care. Ngayon pa lang, paghandaan po natin, marami kaming natutunan kung ano ang pwede nating ilagay sa ating care policy, kagaya nung talking to the receivers of care. Ang mga nag-uusap lang kasi yung mga givers of care. But this time, we also recognize that there should be a voice of those who receive care, which should be considered in our policy framework, which is expected to be presented to NEDA, yes, by May. Kaya medyo matatapos na rin po yung ating care economy policy. Okay? So ito pong magulo na ito, I presented this to the ODA, GAD meeting, as our basis for prioritizing our work. So we already said that we will continue everything that we are doing on the Beijing Platform for Action, but we presented this to explain that GAD budget and financing is our main engine of gender mainstreaming. Gender mainstreaming is mandated under the law, so hindi na po natin babaguhin yan. And for this to happen, there should be GAD plan, which is the driver of positive change in priority areas. Yes, sa pamamagitan po ng GAD plan ng agencies, pwede tayo halimbawa mag-direct ng resources sa women, peace, and security. Pwede nating ma-identify yung budget tags that pertain to women, peace, and security. The review of the PCW is intended to focus on priority areas of gender mainstreaming. And then there is a GAD annual report. Just in case you don't know, agencies are also compelled to submit annual implementation report o performance report or accomplishment report. So, huwag po ninyong isipin na nilalagay lang ninyo sa system yan. These are also being reviewed by the Philippine Commission on Women. And incidentally, we are also submitting report to Congress and the Senate. Kaya pag meron pong budget hearing ang inyong agencies at wala kayo talagang GAD plan, they will know that you don't have a GAD plan. So I'm sorry, it's part of our responsibility to inform them. Your head of agency will be asked. And the new Beijing Platform for Action priorities, as I said, this was done before, so we will review these priorities. Care economy, nandun pa rin naman po yan. Women, peace, and security, and climate change. Women's leadership and political empowerment. And of course, ang hindi napapag-usapan po sa mundo, yung impact of culture in terms of perpetuating gender inequality. Lahat ng gender issues nanggagaling sa kultura. At ang kultura po natin, hindi po germane Philippines. malaki po itong impluensya ng colonization sa ating kultura, and we have to decolonize our culture. Kasi even violence against women was invented by the colonizers, not by Filipino men. The inequalities, the women's subservience, yung expectation for women to be inferior. Doon sa sa national anthem po natin, nakita natin that women were enjoying good positions in society before the advent of colonization. They are respected. Women and men are different, but they are equal. And the respect is given to those who are contributing equally to the betterment of society. Ang status ng bawat tao ay sinusukat sa kung gaano kahalaga ang kontribusyon nila sa kanilang society noon. So, ito po ang hindi pa namin siya nagagawa ng framework, but we are working with the UNFPA and other agencies to find some initial experiences that can help illuminate our thinking. And as I said, that one box there, it's about institutional strengthening of the Philippine Commission on Women. Hindi po kami papayag na ganito pa rin kami. 89 plantilla position, lahat ay COS. Nag-resign na nga yung 17 ng January. Inabot pa kami ng ban ng election, kaya kakawag-kawag lang po kami ngayon, pero hindi po kami papayag na ganyan. We will do our part in strengthening your Philippine Commission on Women, because I believe that the Philippine Commission on Women is not the office, it's not the chair commissioners and staff, it is us. Everybody who work for gender equality is part of the Philippine Commission on Women. We are one movement. So, hindi ko na po kakahabaan. Can you please flash? This is the message that I left in the conference, in the CSW. The only way to go for the Philippines is forward. We will never go back, we will never give in, and we will never give up. We remain committed. Thank you very much. Sana ganyan din kayo, ha? Never go back, never give in, never give up. And we will remain committed together. Thank you. 30 minutes.
Thank you very much to our chairperson, Ermelita Valleavilla, who also served as our head of the delegation. Truly, that was a really inspiring and moving report back on what has transpired during the CSW69. So I won't make this any long. It's time for lunch, so may we invite you all to proceed to that area over there to get your lunch. Thank you very much.